In this week's Bleach, Bach explains hope and despair.
I don't know if you've been in a fight before, but there's usually not this much talking.
All right, sorry, my bad.
Bleach, Chapter 677, Horn of Salvation 2, picks up with the Getsuga Sero hitting Bach, who compliments Ichigo's powers and is actually surprised he could pull off such an attack.
I'm the boss. Need the info.
But the Getsuga starts to crack as Bach says despite all that, Ichigo is still out of his league.
Well, first of all, that insult could have used some work.
The two swords clash, but Bach can read Ichigo like an open book and says aloud his thoughts about how he thinks he's being underestimated and needs to strike now.
Get out of my head! Get out of my head!
His logic was great, but his window of opportunity has been shut and Bach goes almighty.
Pretty gross, huh, kids?
Bach has no more room for error as Ichigo's power is truly magnificent.
Moi? Oh, do go on.
We see the top of the palace is in complete rubble, but who's that at the bottom? Oh, it's just Orihime.
Oh, come on, guy. Don't you know a big pair of titties when you see them?
Ichigo and Bach continue to fight, but when Ichigo pulls out his second blade, Bach has a surprise. His own second blade.
Things have truly escalated.
He mocks Ichigo, telling him he couldn't have thought he was the only one with two swords. But as Ichigo is pushed back, Bach warns him about a trap.
It's a trap! It's a trap!
A black spike then shoots up and stabs Ichigo in the foot. He tries to propel himself off a pillar, but more black spikes shoot up into his foot. Bach has got traps set everywhere in the area.
I'm saying booty traps. You mean booby traps? That's what I said, booby traps!
Bach reinforms him that his almighty allows him to see the future. But Ichigo believes that if that were true, his next attack would have no business hitting him.
Well, we failed.
Ichigo believes he can't possibly see everything. If he could, he wouldn't have blocked with his own sword, but with something else. There's gotta be a limit to the almighty. It's just not fair.
Oh, fair? Do you think I give a moist bag of soggy lint about fair?
If Ichigo really thinks the future can be changed, then so be it. He should just stand right there.
God damn you!
Ichigo falls after the shock of being hit, and Bach tells him he's made one fatal miscalculation. The future isn't a single road, but it diverges from a single point in time like grains of sand scattering in the wind.
Everything is dust in the wind.
That's it? A Kansas song?
Each grain of sand is a future, meaning there's countless possibilities. Then he talks about hope and how changing the future or growing in strength during battle is filled with hope. But to change the future is nothing more than to jump from one grain of sand to another.
First of all, you're throwing too many big words at me. Okay, now, because I don't understand them, I'm gonna take them as disrespect.
Bach can see every single grain of sand as he stands up on high, but he doesn't want Ichigo to give up his hope and keep jumping blindly from one grain to the next. He wouldn't want to kill a child who has fallen into despair.
Thanks for 9/11ing the mood.
But Ichigo knows despair all too well, because he's climbed and kicked its teeth in time and again just to make it to this very moment. He then calls out, Bankai.
Oh shit, here we go! It's going down! Shit is going down!
Pretty decent chapter that had an awesome ending. It was a shame to see that the Getsuga Grand Rei Sero had absolutely no effect on Bach, but it had to be expected. Its only accomplishment was getting Bach to start using his almighty ability, which got an extremely lengthy explanation. It essentially boils down to while there is no set future and things can change, Bach can see every possibility imaginable. So something tells me that even though Ichigo went Bankai at the end, Bach will tell him he knew that was coming and will have some kind of counter to it. Knowing the outcomes to literally everything is just way too OP. Add on that he can steal others' powers and more than likely still has Yamamoto's Bankai makes him untouchable. Plus, he continues to run his mouth every chapter, so maybe eventually he'll end up boring someone to death.
You are boring me to death, and I am already dead.
And while I'm extremely excited that Ichigo went Bankai, I can't help but think that it's still far too early for that. Like, is it safe to assume that he still won't be able to beat Bach in Bankai because it's again way too early? I was expecting maybe a switch from displaying hollow abilities to Quincy abilities before going Bankai. If it's coming off that I'm mad he's doing this, please don't get that impression. I'm looking forward to seeing what his new reforged Bankai will look like and what techniques it can show off. It just seems like Ichigo is using his trump card a little too early in a battle against the final villain. All I'm saying is that I'm excited, but I'm not holding my breath on the thought of a new Bankai Ichigo beating Bach right now.
You take that back! You'll regret saying that!
So I'll give this chapter an 8 out of 10. Bach explains the Almighty in better detail. Ichigo has had enough and goes Bankai, but is it too soon in the fight to be using it? For my question of the week, what do you think Ichigo's new Bankai will look like and what new abilities will it display? Favorite comments always featured in the next review. Here are last week's winners. Alright, that does it for me. Remember to comment, like, subscribe, and follow me on Twitter. I'll be back next week with Ichigo's new Bankai. Peace!